When you first open the Excel application, you will be presented with the startup screen that allows you to create a new workbook. If you have already opened a workbook, you can view a similar screen by clicking the File tab within the ribbon and then clicking the New command at the left side of the Backstage view. In the list of templates that appears at the right side of the Backstage view, you can choose to start a new workbook by clicking one of the many templates available, or you can choose to simply create a new blank workbook by clicking the Blank Workbook template choice. When you save a workbook for the first time, you must use the Save As command so you can choose where to save the file and what to name it. To do this, click the File tab within the ribbon. Then click the Save As command in the command panel shown at the left side of the Backstage view. To the right of the command panel, you will see the list of places that are available for you to save the file. The list of places available varies depending on the Office subscriptions and services that are available to your Microsoft account. Common options include your OneDrive folder for Microsoft user accounts and this PC, which is called Computer in Excel 2013. If you save to your OneDrive folder, the workbook is saved online so you can access it from any computer with online access when signed in with your same Microsoft user account. If you select the This PC choice, the file is saved locally on the computer at which you are working. If you are signed into Microsoft Office using a Microsoft user account, you can click the OneDrive choice to save to your online OneDrive folders. After selecting this choice, you will see any recently selected OneDrive folders shown to the right. You can click a recently accessed folder in this list to select it as the save location. At that point, a Save As dialog box will appear. If you have no folders listed, then instead you can click the Browse button to open a Save As dialog box where you can select the desired folder within OneDrive to use for the save operation. Alternatively, you can save the file to your computer versus OneDrive. You may choose to do this if you are not signed into Excel using a Microsoft user account, or if you know you will not need to access the file from any other computers. If this is the case, you can select the This PC choice, called the Computer choice in Excel 2013. Just as when saving to OneDrive, you then select a recently used local folder on your computer from the list that appears to the right, or you can click the Browse button to open the Save As dialog box. After selecting a location to save the workbook file, the Save As dialog box appears. In this dialog box, you can enter a file name into the File Name field. File names should be short and descriptive. Excel will not let you use the following symbols in a file name: the colon symbol, the forward slash, the backslash, the greater than sign, the less than sign, the asterisk, double quotes, or the pipe symbol. Give the file a name you will remember, and also be sure to remember into which folder you saved it. People will often remember what they called a file, but can't remember into which folder they saved it. After you have entered the file name and noted the save location, click the Save button within the Save As dialog box to finish saving the file. After you have named the file and saved it, its name will appear in the title bar. After that, when you make changes to the file in the future that you want to save, you can just click the Save button in the Quick Access toolbar, or click the File tab in the ribbon and then click the Save command. You will not have to re-enter the file name or select a location. Excel will automatically save the changes to the existing file. To close a workbook in Excel, click the File tab within the ribbon and then click the Close command at the left side of the Backstage view. Alternately, you can close an open workbook by clicking the X in the upper right corner of the application window. If you haven't saved changes to your open workbook before closing, Excel will prompt you to save your work in a dialog box that appears on screen. You can then click the Save button within this dialog box to save your work. To open a workbook, you need to know where the workbook is located. When you initially open Excel, you can see a listing of recently opened workbooks shown in the panel at the left side of the startup screen under the Recent section. To open one of these workbooks, click its name in the panel to reopen it. If the workbook you want to open is not shown in the listing, you can click the Open Other Workbooks command within the panel to reveal the Open category within the Backstage view. If you are already working within Excel and wish to open another workbook, you can also display the Open category within the Backstage view by clicking the File tab within the ribbon, and then clicking the Open command at the left side of the Backstage view. At that point, you can see the locations within which you can look for the file to open, shown to the right of the command panel in the Backstage view. If the file you want to open is saved within OneDrive, click the OneDrive choice. If the file you want to open is located on your computer, click the This PC command, which is called Computer in Excel 2013. You will then see the default folder associated with the selected location shown at the top of the list of files and folders shown to the right. The files and folders contained within the selected folder are shown in a list below it. You can click the folders within the list of files and folders to display its contents in the list of files and folders if needed. You can click any Excel file shown in the list of files and folders to open it. If there are no files or folders shown, or if the file you want to open is not shown, click the Browse button or click the default folder shown at the top of the list of files and folders to launch an Open dialog box where you can select a folder. In the Open dialog box that appears, navigate to the folder location you want to view if needed. You should see an icon for the file along with the Workbook file's name listed within the files and folders shown in the Open dialog box. To open a file from the selected location, click the icon for the file you want to open, and then click the Open button in the lower right corner of the Open dialog box. Alternately, you can double-click the icon of the file shown in the Open dialog box to open it. You can also use this dialog box to simultaneously open multiple workbooks within the same folder. To do this, hold down the Control key on your keyboard and then click each file that you want to open if they are non-adjacent files, meaning that they are not located next to each other within the selected folder. If the files are adjacent, meaning they are located next to each other within the folder, click the first file, hold down the Shift key instead of the Control key on your keyboard, and then click the last file that you want to select. Everything between the two files will be selected. After selecting your files, release any keyboard keys you are holding down, and then click the Open button in the lower right corner of the Open dialog box. This will open all of the highlighted or selected workbooks. Also notice that if you are simply trying to open a recently accessed workbook, you can select the Recent command within the Open category of the Backstage view. Then click the name of any recently opened files that appear in the list to the right of the command panel to reopen them. This replicates the Recent category shown in the startup screen in Excel. Excel allows you to try to recover unsaved workbook files. To see if Excel has automatically saved a copy of an unsaved workbook you are working on, select the File tab within the ribbon and click the Open command at the left side of the Backstage view. In the area to the right of the command panel, select the Recent command. Then look at the bottom of the pane that appears to the right. You should see a Recover Unsaved Workbooks button appear at the bottom of the list of recent workbooks. Click this Recover Unsaved Workbooks button to launch an Open dialog box that shows any copies of unsaved workbooks that Excel has recovered. Note that it may be helpful to sort the files shown by the Date Modified column to display the listing of recoverable files by date, as the file names will not be of very much use in determining their content. You can then choose the copy that you wish to recover from the list and click the Open button within the Open dialog box to reopen the recovered copy. If you successfully retrieve the contents of the file, you should then save the file you recovered. Excel provides you with tools to assist you in managing your workspace when you have multiple workbooks open. In Excel, you can have multiple workbooks open at a time to perform functions like copying and pasting text between them, for example. To see your options for managing multiple workbooks, click the View tab in the ribbon. In the Window button group are commands that allow you to manage your open workbooks. At the left end of the button group, you can see the New Window button. You can click the New Window button to open another view of your current workbook in a new window. This is useful for times when you want to use two different views of the same workbook simultaneously in two separate windows. Changes made in one window will appear in the other window. When you have multiple workbooks open, you can click the Arrange All button that appears in the Window button group on the View tab in the ribbon to arrange all open workbook windows on screen. In the Arrange Windows dialog box that appears, Select an option button to choose the organizational layout for the open workbooks. The options are tiled, horizontal, vertical, or cascade. Select the desired option and click the OK button to apply the selected arrangement to the open workbooks. The tiled layout displays the workbooks as smaller windows that are arranged like tiles on a floor. This view is useful if you need to see data from all the open workbooks simultaneously. The horizontal and vertical choices are much like the tiled option, but will only stack the open workbooks either horizontally or vertically across the main Excel screen. The Cascade option is useful if you want to be able to quickly switch between open workbooks while maximizing the amount of viewable space for each workbook. This option cascades the open workbooks from the upper left corner of your screen down to the lower right corner, overlapping each other so you can view the title bars of each workbook. The active workbook is lowest and foremost in the cascaded stack. You can then click the title bars of the other workbooks in the stack to switch between them, or you can use the Switch Windows button that appears within the Window button group on the View tab within the ribbon to switch between the open workbooks. You can use the Freeze Panes button to view data in two separate sections of a long worksheet simultaneously. You can freeze one or two sections of a worksheet to prevent scrolling, and then scroll the unfrozen section of the worksheet to view two different sections of a worksheet at the same time. One way to freeze panes in a worksheet is to select the cell that is below the row and to the right of the column that you want to freeze. Then click the Freeze Panes button that appears within the Window button group on the View tab in the ribbon and choose the Freeze Panes command from the drop-down menu. After that, when you scroll through the worksheet, the information in the frozen panes will not scroll. Now, when you click the Freeze Panes button, notice that you can instead choose the Freeze Top Row command from the drop-down menu that appears to simply freeze the top row in your worksheet, or you can select the Freeze First Column command to freeze the first column in the worksheet. These commands are useful for keeping column and row titles in view while looking at data in long workbooks. Note that the Freeze Panes command is a toggle command, so you can click the Freeze Panes button again and then choose the Unfreeze Panes command from the button's drop-down menu to turn this feature off when you are done using it. Another tool that is useful when working with longer worksheets is the Split command. This command gives you the ability to split the Excel worksheet into different panes. Each pane contains its own horizontal and vertical scroll bars, so you can scroll each pane separately to view information from different sections of the worksheet. For instance, you could split a long worksheet horizontally, so you could see the column headings in the top row and any totals at the bottom of the columns at the same time. You can click the Split button within the Window button group on the View tab in the ribbon to split the current worksheet into 4 separate panes. This allows you to scroll each pane to independent sections of the same worksheet. You can click the Split button once again to remove the split panes when finished. To hide the current workbook window, click the Hide button that appears in the Window button group on the View tab within the ribbon. To unhide a hidden workbook, click the Unhide button in the Window button group on the View tab in the ribbon to open the Unhide dialog box. Select the name of the workbook that you want to unhide from the list shown, and then click the OK button to unhide the hidden workbook. To compare multiple open workbooks side by side with each workbook taking an equal portion of the screen, click the View Side by Side button in the Window button group on the View tab in the ribbon. After you have clicked the View Side by Side button, you can use the Synchronous Scrolling button. You can click the Synchronous Scrolling button in the Window button group on the View tab in the ribbon to toggle the ability to simultaneously scroll multiple workbooks that are being compared side by side, on or off as desired. Also note that if you have the Compare Side by Side feature enabled, and then resize or reposition either of the open workbook windows, you can then click the Reset Window Position button in the Window button group on the View tab in the ribbon to reset the placement of the open windows. At the far right end of the Window button group on the View tab within the ribbon is the Switch Windows button. You can click this button to view a drop-down menu that shows the titles of all the open workbooks in Excel. You can select the name of a workbook shown in this list to switch the focus of the application to the selected workbook. In Excel, full screen mode maximizes the amount of worksheet area by removing everything else from the Excel window. To switch to full screen mode in Excel, click the Ribbon Display Options button in the button group at the right end of the title bar, and then select the Auto Hide Ribbon command. To exit full screen mode in Excel, click the ellipsis mark button in the upper right corner of the screen to display the ribbon again. Then click the Ribbon Display Options button again and choose the Show Tabs and Commands choice. Excel saves its workbooks using a default file format that provides a smaller file size and better security than the format used in versions of Excel prior to Excel 2007. If you will be sharing your workbook collaboratively with others who need to use and edit the workbook with an old version of Excel, note that some of the newer features are not supported by old versions of Excel. Also, if you save an Excel workbook using the new Excel file format, it will not be able to be opened in previous versions of Excel unless the users of the older versions download a compatibility pack from Microsoft that allows them to open and edit the newer file format. In versions of Excel prior to Excel 2007, there were two basic file types. You can recognize each type by examining the file extension of the file. In versions of Excel prior to Excel 2007, there were .xls files, which were the workbooks, and .xlt files, which were workbook templates. Starting in Excel 2007 and continuing through the current version, you still have the basic distinction between workbooks and templates, but you now have another file distinction, whether or not the workbook or template can contain macros or code. This is simply noted by an additional letter in the file extensions used by the workbooks and templates. For the newer Excel file types, the .xlsx file type is the default Excel workbook file. This file is an Excel workbook that does not contain macros or code. When you use the Save As dialog box to save a workbook, if the Save As type field shows Excel workbook, this is the file type as which the file will be saved. In addition to this, you can also save a file using the .xlsm file extension. This is an Excel workbook that could potentially contain macros or code. This file extension naming structure also applies to workbook templates. A workbook template that does not have any macros or code uses the .xltx file extension, and a workbook template that does allow for the execution of macros or code uses the .xltm file format. If you are creating a workbook that needs to be opened or edited using an old version of Excel, you can save the file using the old .xls file extension, which is compatible with Excel 97 through Excel 2003. You can choose the file type by using the Save As type drop-down in the Save As dialog box. If you open an old 97 through 2003 workbook file in a newer version of Excel, Excel opens the workbook in compatibility mode. You will see the words compatibility mode shown in the title bar of the workbook if this is the case. In compatibility mode, Excel disables any features not supported by the older versions of Excel. That way, you can edit the workbook safely in Excel and save your changes in the original file format. This allows the creator or other editors using older versions of Excel to open and edit the workbook after you have made the changes. In contrast to this, you can open workbooks created in older versions of Excel and save them into the new Excel file format if you know they will no longer need to be opened and edited in an older version of Excel. If you are interested, Microsoft has a backwards compatible file converter that you can download from their website that allows the older versions of Microsoft Office 2000 and 2003 to open the new Excel files.